We will see news from many different countries, from Europe to Asia and the Americas. Leaders meet and have important talks. They discuss big topics like energy for homes and businesses. They also talk about how countries can work together. Money news is also a big part of the week. We look at how economies are doing in different places. Are businesses growing? Are prices going up or down? Sometimes changes in one country affect money in other parts of the world. Trade between countries is often in the news. Leaders talk about trade rules and try to make agreements. Many countries face problems. There are discussions about how to find solutions. For example, keeping energy safe and clean is a big challenge. Governments make plans for new types of power. Another problem is when countries disagree. There are talks about peace in areas with conflict. Keeping people safe is always important. We also see news about technology. New inventions change how people live and work. Companies create new things and governments make rules for them. News about our planet, the environment, is also here. We hear about climate change and efforts to protect nature. This chapter brings together news from politics, money, world problems, and technology. It helps us understand the main events happening now. What were the biggest stories this week? Let's look at the details in the next chapters. This introduction is just the start. 2. Leaders talk. Leaders in different countries talked about important things this week. In the United Kingdom, the Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, had a big meeting in London. Leaders and energy ministers from other countries came. They talked about energy security. This means making sure countries have enough energy. They also talked about getting energy from different places, not just fossil fuels like oil and gas. They want more clean power like wind and solar energy. This is important because of the war in Ukraine. At the meeting, the leader of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, spoke. She said the European Union plans to stop buying oil from Russia. She said this is the right plan. The UK government also announced new plans for green energy. They will give money to help build wind power farms in the sea. They will also support projects to capture carbon pollution. The UK wants its electricity to be clean by the year 2030. Canada had an election on April 28th. People voted for the members of their government. The Liberal Party won the most seats, but not enough to rule alone. This is called a minority government. Mark Carney will be the Prime Minister. The Conservative Party won more seats than before, but their leader, Pierre Poilievre, lost his own seat. The leader of another party, the NDP, also lost his seat and stopped being the leader. About 65% of Canadians voted. The UK government also thought about trade. The Finance Minister, Rachel Reeves, talked about trade with the United States. She said the UK wants a trade deal with the USA. She said she understands some of President Trump's worries about world trade. She planned to visit Washington soon to talk more. But she said the UK will be careful. Any deal must be safe and good for the UK. Leaders from Norway also talked with the US President. Norway's Prime Minister, Jonas Gahr Støre, met President Trump in Washington. They talked about security and helping Ukraine. They also talked about trade problems. The US put extra taxes, called tariffs, on some things Norway sells, like fish and metal. Norway asked President Trump to remove these tariffs. Prime Minister Store said the US and Norway are good friends and important partners. In the US, a famous businessman, Elon Musk, made a change. He worked a little with the government in a special department, but he announced he will leave this role soon. He plans to give money to politicians instead. He wants to help the Republican Party in the next elections in 2026. Some reports said he felt tired of government work. He wants to use his money and his social media company, X, to support politicians he likes. 3. Money moves. China's factories made fewer things in April. A key number showing factory work fell below 50, meaning activity slowed down. This was the lowest point since late 2023. It happened mainly because fewer countries bought Chinese goods. New export orders were the lowest since 2012. This might be linked to new, high U.S. taxes on Chinese products. China's central bank, the People's Bank of China, kept interest rates the same in April. The one-year rate stayed at 3.10%, and the five-year rate at 3.60%. This decision came despite worries about trade problems, with the U.S.-China's economy grew well early in 2025. But experts think the trade issues could slow future growth. Beijing said it might provide financial help if needed. Some world banks lowered their growth predictions for China for 2025. In Tokyo, Japan's capital, prices rose faster in April. Core prices, which do not include fresh food, increased by 3.4% from last year. This was higher than expected and a big jump since 2023. This rise creates a challenge for the Bank of Japan. At its late April meeting, the bank kept its main interest rate at 0.5%. It remains cautious due to trade worries. However, rising prices might force the bank to increase rates later. The economy in the Eurozone grew slightly in the first 3 months of 2025. The Eurozone includes countries that use the euro currency. The economy grew by 0.4% compared to the previous 3 months. This was a little better than the 0.2% growth that experts predicted. Growth was helped by good results in Ireland and also in Spain and France. However, experts warn that this growth might not last. They say Europe's economy is still growing slowly overall. It could face problems from outside issues like trade difficulties. In some large European Union countries, the speed of price increases slowed down. In Germany, prices rose by 2.1% in April, which was a bit slower than before. In Italy, prices increased by about 2.1%, staying steady. These rates are close to the goal set by the European Central Bank (ECB). Because inflation is slowing down, the ECB is not expected to raise interest rates soon. Some economists believe the ECB might even lower interest rates later in 2025. This could help the economy grow. European energy prices fell in spring. Last winter, low wind power meant companies used much more natural gas for electricity. This made power costs very high by February, the highest in 2 years. But warmer spring weather in April reduced energy demand. Gas prices dropped sharply, and electricity costs followed. German power prices at the end of April were about half their February peak. Lower energy costs help people and businesses, although companies still need to store gas for next winter. 4. World trade and tech. There was news about big companies and technology. Amazon founder Jeff Bezos and former President Donald Trump had a phone call. Mr. Trump called Mr. Bezos because of reports about an Amazon plan. The plan was to show customers the cost of U.S. import taxes on products. Mr. Trump called this plan a bad political act. After the phone call, Amazon said the plan was not official. They stopped the idea. Mr. Trump then said Mr. Bezos was a good guy because he stopped it quickly. Some people, like Senator Elizabeth Warren, asked if Amazon received any special help from the government for stopping the plan. In energy trade, the United States government is planning a meeting for June 2nd. The meeting is about a large energy project in Alaska. This project is for liquefied natural gas, or LNG. The plan is to build a pipeline and send U.S. gas to countries in Asia. This way, the gas does not need to go through the Panama Canal. The U.S. wants Japan and South Korea to agree to buy this gas for many years. Taiwan has already shown interest in buying gas from this project. U.S. officials believe this project can help reduce the trade difference with Asia. Technology companies also made news in Europe. Microsoft President Brad Smith spoke to European officials in Brussels. He said Microsoft will follow new European Union rules for digital companies. These rules are about fair competition. The EU had given large fines to other big tech companies like Apple and Meta. Mr. Smith said Microsoft respects European laws, even though some U.S. officials criticized the rules. Microsoft might even change how it sells some products in Europe to follow the rules. Another technology company, TikTok, announced a big plan for Europe. TikTok will spend €1 billion to build a large data center in Finland. This is the first TikTok data center of this type in Europe. It is part of a plan called Project Clover. The goal is to keep the data of European TikTok users inside Europe. TikTok hopes this will help with worries about data privacy and security. Some European governments are worried about data going to China. Building data centers in Europe might help TikTok show that user information is safe. Finland is a good location because it has a cool climate, which helps keep computers cool and uses clean energy. In South America, there was sad news about the environment. In the year 2024, fires in Brazil's Amazon rainforest burned a very large area. More than 30 million hectares burned. This area is bigger than the country of Italy. It was the largest area burned in the Amazon since 2019. To help fight future fires, the Bunge Foundation is working with Brazil's Environment Agency. They will give training to indigenous groups living in the rainforest. These groups will learn modern ways to fight fires. They already have deep knowledge of the forest. This project will run for 5 years in hopes to protect the forest and help the people who live there. 5. World peace problems. The United States is leading important talks to try and bring peace to Ukraine. Meetings happened in Paris and London. The U.S. hopes for an agreement soon. It sent people to talk with leaders in Ukraine and Russia. The U.S. gave Ukraine a peace plan, but Ukraine and European countries also had their own ideas for peace. Information from private papers shows that the US ideas and the Ukrainian ideas are quite different. They do not agree on some very big questions. These questions are about where the borders should be, rules about money called sanctions, and how to keep Ukraine safe in the future. For example, one idea might let Russia keep control of Crimea, but Ukraine wants strong promises from NATO countries to protect its future safety. A top U.S. official warned that America might stop the peace talks if there is no agreement soon. A special U.S. person, Steve Witkoff, also traveled to Moscow to talk with President Putin. These meetings in Paris, London, and Moscow showed a big effort to end the war. But right now, the talks show more problems than agreements. Russia still controls almost 1/5 of Ukraine's land, and neither side wants to give up easily. There were also serious problems between India and Pakistan in April 2025. This happened after a deadly attack in Kashmir on April 22, where many people were killed. India said groups from Pakistan did the attack, but Pakistan said this was not true. Both countries became very angry with each other. They stopped following some old agreements, like rules about sharing river water. They closed their skies so planes from the other country could not fly over. Borders were closed too. Each country sent away some people who worked for the other government. India and Pakistan sent more soldiers to the border area called the Line of Control. Pakistan said it worried India might attack soon. India said its army had freedom to act. There were some small fights with guns near the border. People worried this could lead to a bigger war. The United Nations and countries in the Gulf region asked India and Pakistan to be calm and offered to help them talk. The United States and the United Kingdom also asked for calm because both India and Pakistan have nuclear weapons. NATO leaders are also worried about safety. The head of NATO, Mark Rutte, gave a speech about defense spending. He asked European countries and Canada to spend much more money on their armies. He said that Europe and Canada together pay only about 36% of all the money NATO countries spend on defense. The United States pays 64%. Mr. Rutte said this must change because of the war in Ukraine. He asked NATO members to make a big jump in spending in 2025. He believes Europe needs to do more to protect itself. He noted that 22 out of 32 NATO countries now spend the target amount of 2% of their country's money, GDP, on defense. In 2014, only 7 countries did this. Mr. Rutte's words put pressure on allies to increase their spending. This is something the U.S. government has also asked for. 6. More world problems. There were several serious problems in different parts of the world this week. In Europe, a very big power cut happened on April 28. It started in Spain and Portugal. It also affected parts of France and other nearby areas for a short time. Tens of millions of people lost electricity. Trains and metro systems stopped working. People were stuck in stations. Airports had problems and flights were delayed. Traffic lights stopped working in cities. Hospitals had to use their backup power generators. Even a big tennis event, the Madrid Open, had to stop for a while. Power started to come back later that night and into the next day, April 29. Officials said it was not a cyber attack. They are looking into why power generation stopped suddenly at the same time in different places. Some people wonder if using a lot of solar and wind power without enough backup caused problems, but the grid operators are still investigating. In Asia, South Korea expressed concern to China. Around April 23, South Korea spoke about a structure China built in the Yellow Sea. This sea area is between the two countries. South Korea and China do not agree on who controls this part of the sea. China says the structure is for fish farming, but South Korea is worried that China is trying to increase its control over the disputed waters. South Korean officials said they told China they were worried during talks. Also in China, President Xi Jinping spoke about technology. On April 26, he told top officials that China must become strong in technology by itself. He said this is very important, especially for artificial intelligence or AI. China wants to develop its own advanced technologies so it does not need to rely on other countries. This comes at a time of competition with the United States over technology. In the Middle East, there were serious security problems in Syria. On April 28, the group called ISIS said it attacked Kurdish fighters in eastern Syria. The attack happened in the Deir ez-Zor area. 5 Kurdish fighters were killed. This showed that ISIS is still active and trying to cause trouble in some remote areas, even though it lost its main territory. Near Syria's capital, Damascus, fighting broke out between different groups on April 29. This was sectarian violence, meaning fights between different religious groups. The fighting happened in a town called Jeramana, where many Druze people live. Reports said at least 13 people died in clashes between Druze fighters and Sunni gunmen. The fighting started after a rumor spread about someone disrespecting religion. Local leaders tried to calm the situation. One day later, on April 30, Israel carried out an airstrike in southern Syria. The Israeli military said it hit an extremist group near Damascus. Israel said this group was planning attacks on the Druze community living nearby. Israel has often tried to protect the Druze people in Syria. The Syrian government said the Israeli airstrike was foreign interference. These events showed the continuing violence and complex problems in Syria. 7 Planet and People News. Bad wildfires happened in South Korea in March. 32 people died and large areas burned. A new study says climate change made these fires much more likely. Hot, dry, and windy weather helped the fires grow big. This extreme weather is now about 2 times more common because the world is warmer. Scientists think fires like this could happen more often if temperatures keep going up. They also worry that future fires could be stronger. The Amazon forest in Brazil also had many fires last year. A very large area burned in 2024, much more than the year before. This area was bigger than the country of Italy. To help stop the fires, a group called the Bunge Foundation is working with Brazil's government agency IBAMA. They will help train 40 local indigenous groups to fight fires over the next 5 years. These groups know the forest well. The plan is to use both new ways and traditional knowledge to protect the Amazon forest and the people who live there. China is working hard on new technology, especially artificial intelligence or AI. The country's leader, President Xi Jinping, said China needs to make its own technology. He said this is important because of competition with other countries like the United States. Chinese companies are making progress. One company, DeepSeek, made an AI program like OpenAI's ChatGPT but using less money. China wants to be a leader in AI technology soon and depend less on other countries. In Tunisia, many people protested in the streets. This happened at the end of April. They are unhappy with the country's president, Kai's side. The protesters want democracy back. They are angry because the government recently arrested some important critics, like lawyers and journalists. These people spoke against the government. Police watched the protesters closely in the streets. People inside and outside Tunisia are worried about the future of democracy there. Climate activists protested in Switzerland. They went inside the yearly meeting of the Swiss National Bank in Zurich. The bank is the central bank for Switzerland. The protesters want the bank to stop putting money into companies that harm the planet. They mentioned companies involved in cutting down rainforests or causing a lot of pollution from fossil fuels. The bank's leader, Martin Schlegel, said the bank's main job is to keep prices stable, not to fix climate change. But the activists want powerful banks to help protect the environment. In the United States, some government leaders are worried about civil rights. 7 Democratic senators wrote a letter to the head of the Justice Department. They asked about changes happening in the Civil Rights Division. They said that about 12 experienced lawyers who work on civil rights cases have been moved to other jobs. Civil rights are rules that protect people from unfair treatment based on things like race or sex. The senators worry that the government is not protecting these rights strongly enough. They mentioned recent changes to government policy on these issues. In Taiwan, people were voting early for an important decision. They are deciding about gay marriage in a referendum. Many young people went to vote early. In some places in the capital city, Taipei, so many young people came that the voting places ran out of paper ballots for a short time. Experts think that if many young people vote, Taiwan might approve gay marriage more strongly. Taiwan already has some laws supporting gay marriage from a court decision a few years ago. 8. Games and goodbyes. The world also had news from movies and music. The Cannes Film Festival told people about the movies for its big event in May. Famous filmmakers like Wes Anderson and Ari Aster will show their new films. Wes Anderson's film is called The Phoenician Scheme. Ari Aster's film is called Eddington. 19 films will try to win the top prize, the Palme d'Or. Many stars will be there like Tom Cruise. He will show his new mission, Impossible Movie. In music news, the famous singer Barbra Streisand said she has a new album. It is called The Secret of Life, Partners, Volume 2. She sings songs with other famous singers on this album. It is her first new album in 3 years. There was exciting news in football. In the Champions League last 4 games, Paris Saint-Germain, PSG, played against Arsenal in London. PSG won the first game 1-0. Ousmane Dembélé scored the only goal. This was PSG's first win against Arsenal in 6 games. It gives PSG a better chance for the second game in Paris. Arsenal thought they scored a goal, but the referee said it was offside. The other last four game was between Barcelona and Inter Milan. It ended 3-3. A young player for Barcelona, Lamine Yamal, scored a goal near the end to make the score equal. Spanish football had a big final game for a cup called the Copa del Rey. Barcelona played against their big competitors Real Madrid. It was a very exciting game. Barcelona won 3-2. They needed more playing time because the score was tied after normal time. Barcelona scored 2 goals early. Real Madrid came back and scored 3 goals. But near the end of the extra playing time, Barcelona player Jules Koundé scored a great goal from a free kick. This goal won the cup for Barcelona. It was the first big win for their manager, Hansi Flick. Barcelona is also doing well in the Spanish league, La Liga. They are in first place, 4 points more than Real Madrid. A big game between Barcelona and Real Madrid is coming on May 11th. This game might decide who wins the league. In Germany, the team Bayern Munich is very close to winning the league title again. They have a good lead in the Bundesliga league. They only need one more win to be champions. Their best player, Harry Kane, is also having a great year. He has scored 24 goals. He will probably be the top goal scorer in Germany for the second year. In car racing, Formula One had news. A young Australian driver called Oscar Piastri is doing very well. He drives for the McLaren team. He won the race in Saudi Arabia in April. It was his third win in the first 5 races of the year. Now, Oscar Piastri is leading the competition for the big prize. He has 10 more points than his teammate, Lando Norris. The McLaren team is doing very well early in the season. Piastri is the first Australian driver to lead the competition since Mark Webber in 2010. The next race is in Miami. It was a week with big games and important results in sport. In culture, people looked forward to new movies and music. What was the most interesting news for you this week?
Hey there! Just a second before you go. If you learned something new today, please give this video a like, write your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the channel. It only takes a second, and it really, really helps to create even better English videos for you. Your support means the world. Thank you.